Greetings, everybody. Another day. Salutations. Now, did you watch it? Did you watch it last night? My goodness me. My goodness me. Watching that cortege go down the route that I used to fly over every day as the flying eye, it brought back so many memories. But what was really fascinating for me was that. Oh, by the way, I'm Russ Kane. This is The Daily Show, and you're listening to Men's radio station. What was fascinating for me was that it was piddling down, it was dark, it was miserable, and the entire route from RAF Northolt out on the A40, right the way through to Buckingham Palace, lined with hundreds of thousands of people. Hundreds of thousands. It was truly, truly moving. Truly moving. Speaking of moving, you know him. You kind of love him. It's Neil.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
The most important thing to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
I'm doing the whole thing.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. I never sing. Happy birthday, dear Neil Long. Happy birthday to you. Look at that. He looks fantastic. He's 36 years old today. And
I know I'm a bit old for 36. Thank you.
He looks marvelous.
Get off.
He looks marvelous. And he's brought in, he's brought in women just to celebrate his birthday.
We are packed jam with the party posse here.
Be very careful how you say that. That could go horribly wrong.
Now
then, I don't know. Do you know what? I'm going to be really open with you here. It's really tough because you got to get the right mood and so. But every now and then people need a little bit of lifting, a little bit of lifting here. So I don't want to go into full, normal Russ mode. So we've got to balance it because the nation does feel really sad. Americans don't get it at all. Have you been following like the American news and everything? They don't get it. They don't understand.
I've actually no. I did see some clips of some very ignorant Americans, and I'm not saying all Americans are ignorant, because you get ignorance in every culture you go to, and wise people in every culture you go to.
You've been to France. I said you've been to France, then, have you?
But there were some very misguided opinions, shall we say?
Shit from Shino, to be perfectly honest with you. Apart from Asa Don Brown, who knows loads of things.
Apart from Asa Don Brown, he's one of the wise ones.
But he's half Canadian, so it kind of is. Like 50% of him is charming, and 50% of him will shoot you in the face. Good day, happy birthday, Neil Long. He doesn't talk like that, but he does in my head.
Thank you, Asa Don Brown. I got your private message as well, and I really, really appreciate your sentiment.
Barry J. Allen, The Flash, so much respect, lovely to see. Sue Sleet. Good morning from Crayford. I want boast. Sue.
Here we go.
Crayford.
There you go, Asa Don Brown.
Hey, that's Razor. That's Razor Don Brown. Morning, everyone from Crayford. Happy birthday, Neil.
Thank you.
Hi, Liz, says Robert Van Buren. I don't know what that's all about. Probably a dating site. John Yates. Hello, Russ and Neil. Hello to you. And happy... Come on, Lottie. The US are someone jealous of not having a royal family. Yeah, that's because I just wrote this morning. I said, of course the US won't get it because they have a maximum of 8 years under some nonsense president who's basically a multi-billionaire. I mean, they're certainly a multi-millionaire. That's the only way you can be president. They have no sense of duty. Sorry, they don't. They don't understand how to serve their country. They know how to serve themselves and their mates. They don't know how to serve a country. They have no sense of sacrifice, apart from sacrificing their troops in ridiculous wars they should never get involved in. The list goes on. So, of course, they don't understand the monarchy. They cannot understand how a person like Her Majesty the Queen could be so magnificent, serve this nation for 70 years.
It just seems it's too soon. It's too soon for me for this kind of debate. Yes, not everyone will like the monarchy, but I see it. I suppose if I was anything, I'm a humanist, and sort of it's within my values, I suppose, that I just see her as a human being with a family who love her. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
And everyone needs that time
and
and
tell
space.
you what else. I tell you what else, Neil, is really good. Esther, we'll get with you in a minute. Enjoy the digital hospitality.
I've got an important mental health story to tell before we get started, if I may.
Okay, but I just want to say one thing. I saw something on Twitter this morning. Mostly I just write about books, by the way. But I saw something that said, I don't know why you're all so upset. He's had, talking about King Charles III, he's had all these years to prepare. She was 96. How long do you expect? It's like, as you say, they're people, for God's sake. Somebody's just lost their mum. Stop it. Have a little bit of humanity.
You know, when I was grieving, all the new stuff I had to learn, which I'd never encountered before, I would describe grief as a learning curve at a time that you least need it, Now, can you imagine how many times that's multiplied with someone like Honour King? And he has to do it in front of the world.
And Tony
after
Blackburn,
he's raw from losing his mother.
And Tony Blackburn said, sorry.
How can people not understand that?
Well, they don't. They don't care. Because people don't care. People don't care about anything. Tony
Blackburn
said,
I'm entitled to an opinion. And yes, you are.
Yeah, but we've all got bottoms and we don't always want to see those either. Thank you. That's my view of everyone's entitled to their opinion. Yeah, well, keep it to yourself. I'm not interested in your opinion all the time. Doesn't mean, just because you've got an opinion doesn't mean you're right. It's an opinion. It's your opinion.
It's an
get
opinion.
over it.
I must tell
Tony Blackburn said, I got to say, Tony Blackburn said this. He said that the King Charles III, I've got to get used to saying that.
I know.
Has, I think we all have. I welled up when they sang God Save the King. I mean, you've never heard that since 1953.
Never in my lifetime.
No, of course not.
We have a gig this weekend where it's a Jewish gig and they will play God Save the Queen normally. So we've had to go digging around for a new version of God Save the King. There's some very, very, very old ones, but we don't want those, but we found some new ones. So they do exist.
It's Tony Blackburn said that His Majesty has not had any time to mourn. Nothing. It's been, a whirlwind for him. A whirlwind.
This is a show about mental health. Could we consider the mental health of the King?
Well, you can do, because he has not had a chance to catch his
human
breath. Too. Right, shall we? Oh, you've got a story, but we want to bring on Esther. Now, which do we do?
Yeah,
you tell me.
I'll be very brief. But somebody, and I'm certainly not going to name them from respect, somebody on Facebook.
What's the matter with you?
No, it'll be obvious why. Okay. Somebody on Facebook posted that they were harming themselves. And
crap. Do you mean like cutting themselves or wanting to kill themselves?
Yeah.
Which?
The first. So I rang, and the poor guy is.
Did you know this person? Did you know this person? Or
yes, no, he's more than just a Facebook friend. Okay. We're not like close friends, but I know of him. I've seen him around plenty. A good acquaintance, shall we say, through the other radio work that I do. And I rang him, and he literally was having a mental health crisis. And I'm certainly not saying I'm playing hero here. It's the last thing. But my point is, it's the simplest thing, just a simple phone call from me and a few words. He then reached out and got the help that he needed. I didn't signpost it. He knew where to go. And he is now receiving the help that he needs. But it's just that point. Sometimes you can make such a difference with just a simple thing, just one quick phone call, And so if you are suffering at the moment, or if you do feel you're in crisis, do reach out. There are resources out there that can help you, and sometimes they're the ones you would expect, and then sometimes the help seems to come from the place you'd least expect, and it's just there, and it's just a good thing.
And the worst thing is that when you get into that state, and I use the word as advisedly as I can, you genuinely feel you're on your own. You think there's no one out there. No one will understand.
I've said this so many times.
I've been there, but Neil, I've been there. I know what it's like.
Yeah, me too. The nature of any mental condition is that you are the only one ever. Everyone's having a great life apart from you. You are damaged, broken, I don't know, whatever.
Useless.
Lie the inner troll feeds you. Nobody would care. Probably world's probably better off without you because you're a burden. Bullshit.
Yeah.
And none of it is true. But when you're so deeply in it, it's very hard to see that. But be assured, there is life.
Well done, you. By the way, let's bring
as a therapist. Thank you. As a therapist friend of mine says, she treats people with eating disorders, young people, and she says we show people, she's very untraditional in her methods and consequently very successful. And she says we show people there's a life outside of the illness rather than just inside it. And it's just a question of being able to see outside of it, stick your head over the parapet.
It's such a dark, dark place.
And I would add, be willing to receive help as well. So many of us think we've got to have it all together. We're supposed to know all the answers. No, we're here to help each other, for goodness sake, And
unless you're Ken, because he's got all the technical answers.
Unless you're Ken, apart from Mr. E, my producer, he does know everything. But apart from him, nobody else does. So be willing to receive help.
Shut up, Ken. We're talking about you, not to you. Yeah.
Because
here's
I'm
your
trying
first
to make
guess.
a serious point here, you lot. Be willing to receive help as well, because not everybody will. People are give, and sometimes you just need to say, hang on a minute, I can stop and I can receive help as well. There is a time for that.
Don't move the lamp, it's nice. I love the lamp. The lamp's great. It's charming, and
it's this that I'm moving.
Are you going to be the first person to break a lamp live on radio?
This would be fantastic. She's so moody. This mystery guest, she's smashing up the set. This is fantastic. She's like the Keith Moon of mental health. I made that bit up, probably completely inappropriate. Hello, Esther. How are you?
Hello, and thank you both for the invitation.
You're welcome.
That's very much appreciated. Yeah.
Can I introduce this guest? Can I give the backstory?
Oh, please do.
Right. May I first if that's okay, just express my condolences to the royal family, as this is indeed. I listened to what you just were saying, I couldn't agree more. Basically, yeah.
Thank you so much. Well received. I do stand-up comedy, and I heard about a gig that was being held on a sort of retreat, sort of garden, all right, from a contact of mine on the circuit, Paul Scarhill, who's another contact of mine on the open mic circuit. Hi, Paul, shout out. And I thought I'll go along and do it. And it was right in the middle of the most built-up area, the most kind of urban jungle. And I thought, where on earth would a retreat centre be? Then suddenly down this little alleyway, it opens out into this. Suddenly you're in a little haven with trees and butterflies and crafty things hanging off trees and all
your
that sort of
sat-nav
thing.
gone wrong?
No,
you were heading for Soho and you ended in Somerset.
Sat-nav couldn't even find it, Russ. Right?
Okay.
Now I didn't know if I was in some sort of heavenly retreat from the rigors of the outside world or in a remake of the Blair Witch Project. It was one of the two, but how it all came about, because beforehand I'd spoken to Esther, who is on the show now, and asked her what it was all about and what it was for. And she told me, and she's going to tell you in a lot more detail now, about this idea. And I have to be really honest with you, Esther. No, John, I'm not. I'm going to be really honest with you. I thought the idea was, at first blush, it sounded crazy. I thought this is just bonkers. And then I suddenly thought, hang on, there's a line between crazy and genius that is somewhere hard to distinguish. And then as you talk more about it, I thought, actually, this is genius. Why has nobody ever thought of this before? Why has nobody put this set of ideas before? So on that intro, now I've teased the audience with it. Please introduce yourself, what you do, and most people stare at a screen and do nothing. They watch television. We'd like you to tell a vision. So tell us yours.
Okay.
You're on fire, birthday boy.
Wow.
Give you that.
Yes. Happy birthday. And to link that, it's not my business where you're going to celebrate that tonight, but the place, Symbiosis.
He's inviting all his friends to a phone box in New Malden. There'll still be room.
Well,
you think you're funny, Russ? You think you're funny?
No, I just think I'm massively depressed at the moment. Move on.
Well, one day, I hope you're gonna come and celebrate your birthday in Symbiosia, because Symbiosia
I actually could do. It
Yeah.
honestly was like a retreat from the outside world, and in a place you'd least expect to find it. I'm terrible at dating houses, but old terraced houses, and there's just no room for anything like that. And then suddenly there it was. But it really was a blissful place. But you'll explain all of that, I guess, as we get into the conversation. So what is Symbiosia, first of all? Let's start there. But your idea as well. We want to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, Symbiosia is a proposed new model for the UK's residential social care system. I propose to completely reset it. So we now, as a society, we're over it. Nobody, if granny or auntie has some issues, perhaps in later life, possibly due to dementia, nobody puts anybody no more in an asylum. We're done with that. That's sort of comfortably moved on. So what we have now is what we have now. And there's been a lot in the news, especially with COVID. I wouldn't say it's all bad, but boy, is it struggling. It's not just struggling for the people who live there. It's generally not associated as a nice place to visit. If you've got nobody living there, you definitely wouldn't volunteer to visit unless you really wanted to do something good. It's a bit dire. Now, some people would say people shouldn't even be in those places, in nursing homes, full stop. And I actually, up to a point, I think I agree with that. It's always nice if you actually can live in your own space for as long as possible.
Yeah, Esther, I don't agree with that at all.
But yeah, here comes the big but. Here comes the big but. Not everybody has the family support, the nice family support, because having family is one, having a nice connection with them, that's a whole different ball game. And it doesn't actually matter how you live. You could live in a shoebox, but if you can take yourself out, that's fine. But I have managed a service for people who experience the complex behavioral psychological needs and symptoms of dementia. And I know there's a slogan, living well with dementia, but for 15 years, I've seen what happens when actually you don't live so well anymore. And that is the group I refer to, and that is the group that has inspired me to come up with Symbiosia, because a lot of the times, even when you're at home, you end up laying in a bed or in a room. Russ, I don't want to make you even more depressed, but you're kind of laying in a box, watching a box, before sadly going in a final box, to put it very quickly.
Well, but with respect, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in here. My mother had Alzheimer's for 16 years. 16.
Yeah.
She couldn't watch TV because she didn't understand what the hell was going on. Couldn't read a paper, couldn't read a book, nothing.
Yeah.
So this whole notion of living well with it, no, you're not living well with it. It's an absolute living
such
death.
A difficult, cruel,
it's a living death.
challenging
I would rather
disease.
be hit by a bus.
My mum
hit by a bus.
Yeah. It's a horrible, slow, painful, and I hate to say expensive, and I hate to say that, but that is a factor.
We lost everything. We and not only did I lose my mum, but everything went into healthcare. Every last single penny.
Yeah.
Every penny.
Yeah, it's really, really super difficult. So, and it's close to my heart because my mum had dementia as well, and she'd sort of forgotten how to. If I was doing a Zoom call, because she was in the home, and I would call her on the iPad or computer, and they say he's over here, and normally it's just the most obvious thing to turn your head, and she'd sort of forgotten how to turn her head and look in my direction. So bizarre, but.
Yeah.
Well, of course, ultimately.
But you're resetting. I mean,
ultimately, let me just say this. Whoa, Esther, hang on. Ultimately, you forget how to breathe. Never forget that. You ultimately forget how to breathe.
So we're obviously talking about quality of life, giving these people the biggest quality of life, and you've been inspired to do so. Tell us about your vision, which I at first thought was crazy, but now I think is genius.
Thank you. So what you, unfortunately, as you know yourself, and many people possibly can relate to that. And thank you for the honesty as well to say, actually, it's not very well in the end at all. Perhaps the first couple of years, but then it get very tough and very long drawn. So there is wonderful research going on, and to see if we can extend things, solve things, but it's a very, very complex area. So and of course the government is I'm not going to go political, but there is ideas on perhaps how we can improve the system. But what, from my experience, and you talked about mental health earlier, I had a bit of a dark night myself, and literally out of that dark night and turmoil came sod it. Honestly, sort it. This and what we just described. And then there's another need people have. So there's a fear for having to go into that system as it currently is. But actually, the world is also, it has some issues at the moment, more than one. And people who don't necessarily have a caring factor in their lives, but they want to have fun. They need to lift their spirits. They need to relax. They need to sort of socialize. They need to have a good time. Otherwise, we all end up very, very in a dark place. So instinctively, it's put it very simplistically. Instinctively, we don't want to go to a nursing home. Instinctively, we want to go where something is fun. For instance, in a theme park, in a leisure park, in an eco park. That's where we want to go. And I say, let's combine the two. Let's combine the two. And what's the point of asking for what younger generation to come and have fun in Symbiosia and kill off the planet whilst we look after an older generation? So it has to be fun for nature too.
That's and what kind of things would be in this?
I am completely, absolutely lost here. I'm utterly lost. So was I'm lost. First. I'm lost with this, Esther.
It takes a while to sink in.
It sounds completely mad.
Well, that was my first.
Not
reaction.
In a good way.
I thought, what am I going to do? Put grandma on a roller coaster, right? But then bearing in mind, I was coming to do a comedy gig as well, so I thought that might be what I'm going. But having said that, the way you describe it, no one's ever thought of anything like this before, and it's not a theme park like Thorpe Park.
No, of course not. Yeah.
So, what kind of things would be in said theme park / care home?
Yeah. So if I can picture it for you, I kind of say think size Royal Albert Hall, but then environmentally friendly build, carbon neutral, and using that building very cleverly to incorporate all the latest tech aspects, so the building is breathing in itself and only contributing to nature and not harming it. That's one. But then you create the atmosphere of a Mediterranean village. So as opposed that you're locked into your room, your front of your room looks out on the atrium. From the top floor is going to be a slide all the way around. And then you see the children, you feel the energy. Inside there will be trees, inside there will be greenery, inside there will be live music. As if you can observe life. Staff will be walking by, they will be waving. You get your personalized maybe therapist to visit you for a couple of minutes. You may be joining a bigger group. You feel the buzz, you feel the atmosphere. A restaurant, you can join a far nicer environment. But here comes the trick. So that is, of course, the sadder part of life. But on the outside of that building, in a way, it's been held by the local community, in a way, ultimately by the nation. Because from the outside, you could have a zip wire, a climbing frame. You could surround it with an eco park, and not just any eco park. It better be cool. Just slapping on a few trees here and there, that won't do the trick. It better be Instagrammable. It must have like something like a tree house, a gondolier going through the trees. It must have an amazing tea house, for instance, where you have afternoon tea. It's not going to be a normal one. It can't be boring. It has it maybe in the shape of a teapot. You just want to have your hen party there.
It sounds like you're talking about a transformed world, almost.
Yeah, nearly a fairy tale world. So when you come for fun, you will get fun. But as before, generally speaking, that money would then go into the pocket of someone, an investor or some, I wouldn't say we're ruling out completely investors. Somebody has to put some money in it at some point. But the point of it is that it then subsidizes the good care inside, and that ultimately the whole destination Symbiosia is financially sustainable. Otherwise it's nothing, of course. We can have all good intentions, but without the dosh. So it comes with a very clever sort of philosophy on how to do that. There's something called the donut economy or the biocircular economy. It steps away from that traditional money, but it's about sort of taking in enough and then make it sustainable. That is the
What
gist.
sort of reaction have you had to this from the people that you've
I hope it's not like my reaction. Wow. I'm not buying this at all. I got to tell you, Esther, I'm very honest with that. I'm not buying this for a second. I'm absolutely not buying it. Sorry.
Why not? What is the
I think it's completely bonkers. I think it's absolutely bonkers. Have you had members of your family suffer with dementia or Alzheimer's?
I have. Yeah, and I've been surrounded by.
You've seen what's happened to them.
Yeah.
You've seen the fact that the doors have to be locked or they will wander into the road and die.
Correct. Yes.
And you're proposing that they just wander anywhere.
No.
In this fabulous Mediterranean village.
No.
You're proposing that there's stairs or steps where people are going to fall over because they don't know how to, because their sense of balance isn't any good.
No, how you have to
this at all. I don't understand what you're saying. I'll be honest with you, I really don't.
The inside, so again, think circular, square, honeycomb, it doesn't matter in the end. Whatever fits on the side. But it's about a circular type thing. That is, albeit very nicely built and environmentally friendly with a lot of greenery where people sort of live in a forest, if you wish. Of course, that's going to meet all the aspects of good care, and it will have all the security. In fact, I would claim we are very much due to a new design, because with COVID, and God forbid it hits us bad again, and if it's not COVID, it will be something else. This will be designed in such a way that people can actually get access to their loved ones, even though if the other part of perhaps the nursing care is.
So given the symptoms that Russ talks about, because he's absolutely right, and you've had experience yourself, and obviously you're aware of these symptoms, and you still think this is possible and doable, even in the light of these symptoms?
No, without a shred of a doubt, because that's a whole different department. That will be held and designed as such, as per how it's going. It's not an attack on that. It is on how we financially fund it, and also how we structure it, and we make it fun for staff. And how we actually transform this whole notion that a nursing home is one thing and that a fun place is another thing. I'm saying combine it and make it fun for the planet as well. So all the concerns they will be without that will be just met. No, they will not be. Nobody will get lost, if that makes sense. No, it's the fun, and this is why it is new, and this is what we have to sort of get our head around, because we're so used to segregating it, to say no, that's safe and all that. Of course, they will be safe, but the fun and the element are for those that are still having the capacity to join it, because you will need the general public to come have fun. If they don't have fun, I've worked roughly out, and this is just anecdotal. To be able to fix the system, for one person with dementia, to have to give them genuinely good care in the way I propose it, and with a good staff team as well, you need about an engagement of 1,000 people of the general public. That is what would need to start happening.
So let me hold you up here. What has the general public got to do with the medical care that people with dementia require? Where's the interaction here?
There for that, the interaction, there are plenty of schemes that they say sort of inclusion is very important. I am completely like an asylum was an asylum, and it's a system we are now done with, and we have now what we have now. It is separate.
I do have to jump in.
It's not, Esther. It's not. First of all, you're banding. Let's break this down, shall we? First of all, you're banding around the word asylum. Now, which like Arkham Asylum and Your Dark Knight, I'm immediately thinking of Christian Bale. It's not a question of that. Asylums were, we don't want to go back to Bedlam where people on a Sunday would put on their Sunday best and go and look at the lunatics. Obviously not. There are still the criminally insane, and they need to be locked away from the rest of society because they're sodding dangerous. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people with dementia. So let's lose the word asylum, but let's look at the word care home, because they need a home where they are cared for.
Yes.
The notion of total strangers who are not medical staff coming anywhere near my mother, I would take a baseball bat to them and their knees. That's what I would do.
It will not happen. So for very clear, I know it's a hard one too, and I really appreciate this discussion because possibly others have considered. So for very clarity, that will not happen. With separate passes, nobody would come near any relative or any person in there's safeguarding policy, of course, in place. That sort of, to me, that's nearly like a given. That obviously will not happen. It functions, for that matter, exactly the same as your current nursing home practice, with all the safeguarding, with all the CQC. Everything will be above board, and there's no change there, except for that your relative will then suddenly have a lot more happier staff. The staff will get paid better. They live in an environment where they have a lookout on, which is far more open and airy, but they can't access because it's a view, and the inside of the circle is far more protected.
I do love the idea of being able to. I don't think you were implying that the general public would be interacting with the patients one-on-one. That would be insane. I do love the idea of the patients being able to look out onto a beautiful place with a much nicer energy. Care homes don't have nice energy, that's for sure. When you talk about inclusion, this is where I get hung up a little bit, because you couldn't include my mum in anything. She was so in her own.
Nor mine.
Yeah.
Nor mine. This is where we stray into the realms of fantasy, Esther.
This is where I have a little bit of difficulty with it. In principle, I kind of love the idea, but I get hung up on certain
facts
aspects.
Is the word you're looking for, Neil. You get hung up on certain irrefutable medical facts.
We are actually, for clarity, we are so on the same page, because I see nothing else than people who are in a very, very advanced stage. So I know exactly, without knowing.
I mean, I've been in some care homes where I've seen how the staff treat the patients. They treat them with kindness and compassion and respect, but it's still got that care home feel. It still feels like it's still got that kind of, we all know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And if it was a beautiful, airy, lovely, vibey, good feeling place with all the safeguarding in place, of course.
All that, exactly.
And the people inside still would not know where the hell they are.
That's correct, and I can't solve that. That I'm not a doctor, and once they solve it, they solve it. But I feel we can't wait for that. They don't know. But what the experience would give, of course, is that you would be able to visit your parent, your mom, and you would know that she has lovely staff. You would know that the staff get paid fair.
The staff. I had to move my mother 4 times. Four times to 4 different care homes. The staff were always magnificent, and I want to be very clear about that, because the tabloid press gives them a shit time, and there will always be a bad apple.
Yeah,
and those people need to be shoved in jail for a very, very long time.
And now we will pay them well as well, and that's the. But
difference. The staff, I really want to underline that the staff are tremendous. They came to Mum's funeral, so the staff are fantastic, and it's a vocation for them. It's not a job; it is a vocation for them.
Yeah. Could you put that comment up for Mesa Dawn Brown again? The one before, please. There's no absolute when it comes to dementia, except the loss of personal freedom. While I'm on board for offering services that improve the life of those suffering with dementia, we must take caution when introducing individuals who are not trained to manage such matters. But I agree with that, and I don't think that's what you're saying, though, Esther.
No, not at all. Not at all. No. Oh, no. That would be.
And could you put the other one back on? I want to run this by you, Esther. Actually, there's been research that indicates that the arts have a way of improving the lives of those suffering with dementia. Now, my producer, Mr. E, Ken, was using virtual reality headsets, and his dad was in a moderately advanced stage, shall we say. And this is a beautiful story, dead eyes and all that sort of thing. And his dad obviously used to drive cars. So it was a virtual reality where he was driving. And it wasn't quick. It took 4 years. But by the time he'd done it again and again and again, there was a marked improvement. The light came back in the eyes. He got the movements back when he didn't have it before. I've talked with Ken endlessly about the power of virtual reality and what it has the potential to do. And I know they are using it in some fields already. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I've seen that myself, and I've seen people who are so-called non-verbal, as in they don't say much, but for instance, music or the right therapy, art comes on, and people speak full sentences and sing full verses. It's absolutely mind-boggling. And one shoe doesn't fit all, you know. It what works for one person, and this is another thing what dementia makes so complex. What works not only for one person may not work for another, but what works for one person one day may not work in the afternoon or the next
tell me
day.
about it. Dementia is insidious and horribly clever. Yeah, I've just been told by Ken that university hospitals are using VR in care home settings already. It's a fascinating idea, Esther, and I will follow this. And I wish you all the love and luck in the world with it. And it's been lovely, lovely.
And I just want to reassure Russ that from the perspective of a relative, the care is the same, if not better. But like you said, it costs you a fortune as well. And, you know, the idea is that if you combine a destination that becomes of genuine interest for corporations and for people on the outside, for the record, on the outside, they come nowhere near. They know that what they're doing, their sponsorship, the so-and-so treehouse sponsored by so-and-so bank, actually contributes to good staffing levels, to good care, to get that VR, for instance, to get, for instance, a music or an arts therapist just to butterfly around, for instance. That is the new thinking. So the care, if not better, but that needs to be financed, because otherwise, indeed, it is a bit of a airy-fairy idea. And I feel that is the general public, if you offer them a genuine destination where they feel they're going to have fun, hey, and guess what? It's for a good cause. That everybody's more happier, basically. It's a win-win for everybody.
Okie dokie. Esther, thank you very, very much. It's been an interesting conversation. Take care.
Thank you, Esther.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Bye-bye. That's what I thought when I first heard it.
There you go. Now what do we got from Asa? Esther, you should check out the work of Dahlia Gottlieb Tanaka from Vancouver, British Columbia. She's a personal friend and an expert on the matter. So that's Dahlia Gottlieb Tanaka. You want to try and say that in a hurry. I guess, you know, pioneers have to push it to the extreme just to move it on an inch. Maybe that's the way we think about it.
But if the care was as good, if not better, and it was a beautiful place for people to be in, where's the harm?
No, there's no harm. There's no harm. I'm just the older I get, the more I live in reality.
The thing is, when I first heard that idea, I thought it was batshit crazy, and then I started thinking about it, and I thought, there's an element of genius in there, and I'm just not quite sure. But why not? I mean, we need some innovative ideas. And I think you nailed it, actually. Push the boundary as far as you can, just to move it forward.
Just to move it forward, you know, you try and push it a mile, then maybe if you move it a few feet, that's actually
because things.
That's actually a result. That's actually a result.
Things do need changing.
Anyway, it brings back revolting memories, and I would rather die this afternoon. I tell you this, I would rather drop dead this afternoon than put my kids through what I went through. It's disgusting.
Yeah,
and
me too. I've had that
conversation. Unremittingly awful, and I don't want my children.
I've had the same conversation with my daughter.
It's awful. I would really rather drop dead this afternoon.
Yeah, I would. I've had the conversation.
If you said to me in 10 years' time you're going to get dementia, I said, kill me now. I don't even want the 10 years ahead of me. If that was the deal I had to make, it's awful. It's like watching somebody drown slowly, and you're standing on the shore, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and you feel so guilty as well. So I made sure I had the conversation with my daughter, as you did with your kids, when you're in our right minds. And I said, if I'm ever not in my right mind, I meant what I said when I was in my right mind, so she knows in advance.
Well, you know, one of the things we should talk about, and if you could find the guest, I'd like it, living wills. Living wills, so that people's wishes are actually carried out while they're in their right mind. I think living wills are very. If you or Dr. E,
doesn't this come under power of attorney now?
Dr. E, what? Say again?
Doesn't this come under power of attorney now?
No. It's much It's much bigger than that. It's much bigger than that.
I'll do some research.
If you could, I'd love an expert on living wills, not just power of attorney. I'd prefer not to be a burden to my family. Absolutely, Asa. What the hell for? It was Do you know the worst thing? And I'm going to say it because no one ever says this in the media. It was pointless. It was 60. It was utterly pointless. Pointless. It was the most pointless bloody existence. It was horrendous.
Yeah. I know.
Now, often with dementia, God, this is a happy show, isn't it? Often with dementia, if I always said, if my mum thought she was the Queen of France and was happy, I would have lived with that. I wouldn't have had a problem with that. That would have been okay. I would have come to terms. She's in a happy place. That's all I care about.
But it's not a happy place.
But she invented a past, none of which was true. She invented a world, none of which was true, that was awful. And she lived in that world.
I noticed my mum getting more.
It was ghastly. It was
more suspicious, more paranoid. And I'd heard, because none of us have got dementia training, have we? I mean, the doctors.
What the hell are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do?
Exactly. And I heard from my friend, I thought it was a genius move. His dad, who sadly got dementia, went back to his military days. Convinced he was there. So it wasn't a past that was untrue. It was just a past that didn't exist anymore in present moment. And when he walked in the room, my friend would salute and play along.
That's okay. I could live with that.
Which I thought was a genius thing to do. But I tried a similar thing with my mum, and I'd try and play along, but she'd be like, "You're trying to catch me out." So no matter which way I turned, if I didn't play along, I couldn't win. If I did play along, I couldn't win. And it's very, very draining.
Yeah. For the last few years, my mum didn't know who I was. Not a clue. No, there's only me. And I had to tell the staff, by the way, because she kept talking about my sister. I've never had a sister. I'm an only child. But there's only me, right? I'll read Liz's thing in a sec.
Producer Ken would like to make a comment. Can I bring him in?
Has he brushed his hair?
He has now.
Okay, he's brushed it. Bring him on, because it's all about.
What do you want to say, buddy?
Hello, Russ. There has been research on what helps with dementia, and there's a place in, I think it was Norway, and they set up old shop fronts. So they
completely.
Had
yes.
And that really did them good.
Mum had this. This was great. It was lovely.
Now, I also did it, many things, not just VR, but it took my dad about 2 years to sort of come back, so to speak. And I found getting him outside for walks, which most of them never did because the families never took them out, and fresh air and feeling like they're in the countryside was good. But the VR bit, you can put somebody outside their house as it was 10 years ago. You can see it on a TV screen. And I had the most wonderful experiences of they'll suddenly become animated and go, "Oh, that's my sister's house. She's changed the front door." If you do it in present state idea. Or in old state, they'll be pointing out the neighbours because everything was as it was 10 years ago. And they totally missed the fact that there was no other movement. It's because they could freely move their head and they could look around and everything was familiar from just before they lost.
So his movement, you're saying your dad's movement improved, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
When it wasn't there, which I suppose...
Well, he had very limited movement. And what happened with him was when he was in VR, he would use his left leg and he would rotate round in his wheelchair and get quite animated. And his speech did get better. He even remembered my name once.
You see, I do know of an experiment where they... Have we got another guest, by the way, or are we just talking?
He came on, took a look, and he buggered off. So there we go. Nothing I can do about that. It's been booked for weeks. No doubt I'll get a rude email, but there we are.
Okay. They did an experiment where they got a bunch of octogenarians and they recreated the environment of what it was like when they were in their, I don't know, teenage years or formative years or much younger, happier part of their life. I don't know if dementia was in the mix, though, but certainly typical things that we'd associate with old age were, health problems, all the typical old age things. don't know if dementia was in the myth, have to be really honest. They put that out, the newspapers of the day, played the music of the day, showed film reels of the day. And these people, health, physical and mental, immeasurably, and I do mean they literally measured it, improved. Okay.
Oh, there's no way. Look, in Mum's home, in one of the homes, there was lots of references to the past. Lots. All over the place. Lots of visual stuff, old books, dolls, in fact. Freaked me out. Poster, all sorts of things to help people feel more comfortable. I think we have to say, feel more. There's something, by the way, I would like to say, which never gets talked about. There's a lot of entertainers who only go and entertain in care homes. And people are so rude. So I think what they're doing is magnificent. Magnificent. And the audience sit there and they sing along and they clap along and it makes them happy. And for people to be so sarcastic and rude, I would say, what exactly are you doing?
Rude to who? About what? What?
About the entertainers who do care homes.
Why?
Because they think, oh, look, that's the bottom of the bottom. I mean, that's your career. You're doing care homes. And I think what they're doing is magnificent. It's wonderful.
Well, it's contribution. It's got nothing to do with career.
Thank you. But the sarcastic naysayers are so rude about these people. Like, they used to do this. Now look what they're doing. No, they're giving something back. My answer is, what do you do? What do you do apart from sit there and criticize? What is your contribution? If it's sod all, then shut your mouth. Now, Liz Saul says this. Mum appointed me power of attorney towards the end of her physical life, even though she was generally in her right mind. It was helpful in getting some things done for it's essential.
Yeah.
Do not feel guilty about it. It's essential.
No.
You've got to.
Yeah.
Because
and if you don't understand the financial aspects, I'm thinking for my daughter now, then other people will, and that can leave you, particularly when you're grieving and vulnerable, and that can leave you open to be manipulated or people wanting to make a quick buck or whatever.
One of the things about dementia is that, and I found Mum was doing this. God, I didn't know we were going to go into this today. It's not helping my mood, but
we can change the subject if you like.
No. One of the things she was doing was just sending checks to everybody. You know, every sort of bullshit offer that was in the Daily Express or something, she was sending off, and all this crap was arriving in the flat. And I'm going, Mum, what the hell is? Oh, I thought, and it is one of the symptoms, and that's why with power of attorney you have to stop all that crap. And of course, there's a lot of very unscrupulous people. I had to get really hardcore with a lot of it, and it's exhausting because you're trying to live your life as well. I'm sorry, that sounds very selfish, but you're not a professional carer. You don't know what you're doing. You're doing your best under horrible circumstances, and it's unremittingly
under a situation that is nigh on impossible. Plus, you're dealing with all the grief of what you know is coming up. It's the most difficult situation I think I've ever been through in my life. I wrote a blog about it. In fact, you read it and then invited me on here. That's how all this nonsense started presenting to me.
It's just your contribution, your addition to Men's Radio has been immeasurable. Thank you. It's taken us into such a fascinating area. The listeners and the viewers are really reacting well because you're a genuine guy. That's
we
the
can
point.
Go further. I can get more woo-woo if you like.
Yeah, I understand that. But you're a genuine guy, and the whole thing about Men's Radio and Women's Radio as well, but let's just talk about Men's Radio, it is what it is, in as much as, we laugh and muck around and push the boundaries, but it is genuine. It comes from a place of actually wanting to help. We are a CIC company, which is a community interest charity, which means there is no, and community interest company, there are no profits. Myself, Howard, Penny, we've never, ever taken one penny. Not a penny, no pun intended, from anything. Everything just goes into running the stations. In case people are sitting there going, you're just doing talk radio. No, we're not. Completely different situation. Liz Saul, you better read this. She's your pal.
I agree. Mum and I had a bit of a joke where she said, I don't want you to wipe my ass for me. But she knew she could trust I'd fight her corner and advocate until the absolute end.
Got to do it. There was a fabulous moment. There was a fabulous moment.
You're fighting your own corner as well, and sometimes it's so enmeshed. And I found that really, really
hard.
difficult.
It's
what's
hard.
hers? What's mine? What's ours? What is this entity that is collective that's changing? There
was a wonderful moment. Because the money had burnt away. Eventually I had to get help from the council, all sorts of things. So of course the council came down to do an inspection. So I was taken into a lounge and met these two very worthy women, complete with clipboards. I'm not making it up. Complete with the clipboards, from the council. And and they said, well, we're going to move your mum. I said, no, don't move my mum in here. Honestly, she will start screaming. I don't mean yelling. I mean, she will start to scream. Please leave her. Well, we can't. I said, please don't move her. So they thought I was being very difficult and trying to hide something. And I said, why have you got to move it? Well, data privacy. And I said, what, what's the phrase? What's the phrase about data? Data protection. They said, data protection. And I said, with the greatest respect, my mum wouldn't know if she was on Jupiter, Mars, or, Thunderbird 3. Trust me, data protection is not going to be an issue here. Well, we'll see. So they got all a bit hoity-toity with me, and they went out to interview my mum. 50 seconds later, they came back into the office in the care home. They were ashen. So, Mr. Kane, how can we help you? Jesus. Because there is the world of difference between theory that you can learn in some lecture hall with somebody standing at an easel and reality. You can't always apply theory. Reality bites. I'll never forget it. Honestly, they went out. They were back within 45, 50 seconds. And I had to keep a complete poker face. And we were fine after that. But they had to completely. I know Liz has misunderstood here. Liz has misunderstood slightly, but I bless you for your passion. That's bollocks. If you're named next of kin, you have the data permissions. No, it wasn't about that. It was they didn't want to have what they thought was going to be a lengthy, in-depth conversation with my lovely mum in the hearing circle of of other people. But the other people, they don't know where the hell they were either. They could have been anything, And as for the staff, I want to give this example. I was sitting there with Mum one day, and the woman next, one of the things about dementia is that the person you love and adore becomes somebody quite different. You don't know who that person is anymore. They get very aggressive. Their language gets vile. My mum never really swore. Bugger was about the worst thing. Boy. And the woman next to her, they sit there, they get quite aggressive with each other. And the staff were so lovely. The staff were great. And she just had this whole glass of orange juice and just threw it. Not my mum, the woman next to her, just threw it at the nurse. For no reason. Please don't look for logic. There is no logic. And the nurse, was so calm and so wonderful. I've never forgotten that. That was, to me, the epitome of the care that the staff are able to do. That was it's vile. But there we are. There you are. It's unremittingly grim, and there's nothing you want.
And actually, worth talking about while we're talking about mental health, because it affects the mental health of the people close to them as well. It affected mine. Certainly affected Lizzie's. Certainly, I did it. It affected Ken's. Don't know about yours, Russ.
I'd come out into the car park, sit in my car, bawl my eyes out. It was awful. Right. And I had to steel myself. I mean, I'm very open about this. I had to steel myself. I didn't look forward to going. I wish I did, because I knew it'd be awful and very trying. And I'd sit in the car, summon up, and then go in and just have an hour of absolute shit, and then come out and sit in the car and cry. I'm not proud of it, but I had to deal with it. That's it.
And don't try and do it all alone. It's some advice I got from a friendly postie.
You say that, and you know what I got from so many people? Well, love your mum, Russ, but we'd like to remember her as she was. And I always say, I'd like to remember my mum as she was. I don't have that luxury, but I can't blame them. I can't blame them. It wasn't their mum. Why should they go through it? I don't feel bad about that. I get it. I think you have to be and say, well, it's not my problem. It wasn't their problem, even though some of them were relatives who I love very much, but it wasn't their problem. I get it. I think you've got to be bigger than that,
No, I had a couple of very great relatives, my cousins, actually, my cousin and his wife, and they supported my mental health through that period. They allowed me to feel like I was human and like I was normal and that I wasn't bad. And, and the psychological support that I received from them and from others, I will never forget to this day, because I was really in a mess. I mean, my mental health took a real dip a couple of years ago. That's why it's good to be on here, talking about it and saying, you can get
you
better.
get the bill. It's an annual bill. Did I not mention that?
What?
Did I not mention it's an annual bill?
That's all right, big fella. You're getting my invoice next week.
Oh, yeah.
And Ken's. And Liz's.
And Liz. Anybody else? Got some neighbours you want to
yeah. Anyone else?
Anybody else?
Anyone? Yeah. One over there.
Chimney Sweep. You got to pay for that as well. It's interesting. People head for the hills. They think cancer is catching. They can think dementia is catching. It isn't, but it's horrible, and that's all there is to it. The other thing that was important, I really didn't know why we were going to go into this, but the other thing that's important is, because you're feeling all over the place, and this isn't an excuse, it doesn't make you a bad person. You're only human. And I think one of the things I'm suspecting what you did and what I did is we beat ourselves up. We're not doing enough. And you think, well, what more could we do?
Because I'm not qualified. Remember, if you're
qualified.
In that situation, this is what I would say to you now. You're not qualified. You can't play every role. I could play a good role as a son, but I couldn't be replacement husband, son, carer, driver, doctor, financial manager, confidant, social events organizer. This is what the guy meant when he said, don't try and do it all alone. That's what he meant. And if you do try and do it all alone, you will burn out. And then you will get something that's called compassion fatigue, where you won't give your best and you will start to cut corners. That's about the second stage. First stage is Superman. I'll do everything. Second and third stage are kind of degenerating into cutting corners, not responding to the person you're caring for or patient, particularly well. It's very common in the care sector. And the final stage is zombie. So by trying to just dead eyes. Yeah. And that's pretty much where I was. I was literally in that dead-eyed place, lost in my own thoughts. And which I wouldn't call it dementia, but it was certainly not mental health, and you cannot help someone in any way if you are not physically and mentally healthy yourself. And this is why it's not narcissistic or selfish to practice self-care and put yourself first. And know that you don't have to do it alone, and know that it is okay to receive help as well, because that's another problem so many people have. It's allowed.
It is allowed to say I'm human. One of the things that just occurred to me, because you see, just to tip my hat to losing the magnificent monarch and for everything that we're going through, I'm wearing a tie, which most people have never seen me wear. But the trouble is, this is how my mind works. I'm changing the subject totally because I can't talk about this anymore. The moment I wear a tie, I think I'm Rodney Dangerfield. And this is no respect. I got no respect. I said to the barman, he said, what do you want? I said, surprise me. So he showed me a naked picture of my wife. I got no respect. And I just absolutely, Rodney Dangerfield. What a
Rodney Trotter, more like.
What? Oh, Rodney. Do you like Rodney Dangerfield? Is he one of your? He's one of my comedy heroes. Him, Gilbert Gottfried. Oh God. Sometimes because of the moment, and it's awful watching the cortege go from RAF Northolt through. Did me in last night. Did me in. Well done, whoever put those lights inside the hearse. That was a beautiful thing to do, so we could see the flag, and we could see. I thought that was fantastic. I think
it's a good time also to remember, as we remember the Queen, to remember that we are all human as well, and the things we've been talking about on this show. And it's allowed. It's allowed. It's allowed. It's allowed. And it's also allowed to be joyful at a time like this. That's not banned either. It's just allowing the full gamut of being human, I suppose, is what I would say personally.
Been a hell of a show. A hell of a show. Thank you, Esther. It was extreme, but I think sometimes new ideas have to be extreme to just move it along, move the conversation along just a little bit. So
Thank you, Esther.
If I was harsh, it's only because it comes from a place that I really care about.
No, quite rightly so. And you're interrogating the idea, and I think she's open to that as well. Symbiosia. You can give
that
it.
Was it. Symbiosia. Don't know what happened to the other guest. Apologies.
I'll see you Wednesday because we're not doing a show on Monday.
We're not going to do a show on Monday, as it is the funeral, and that would be completely disrespectful. So I will see you Wednesday. And once again, happy birthday, Neil Long.
Thank you very much
indeed. Bye bye.
Cheers.